Hello and welcome to a special show, Argentina 1978 onwards. This is Sports 9 football analyst Hardik Agrawal, joined by Sports 9 editor Sandeep Mishra. Today we are going to discuss the evolution of Argentine football and the flag bearers of their success in the past. More so, we will also discuss what could they potentially do in this World Cup. Sandeep, the first match of the 2022 Qatar World Cup is just a few hours away now. There have been a lot of controversies around this World Cup, human rights violation, inacceptance of LGBT, World Cup happening for the first time in winters, and ban on beer and much more. Can all this take a toll on the performance of the players?
When you talk generally, it does to an extent, but I don't think most of this bunch of players or whichever countries they are, I don't think they get up in the morning and the first thing they do is, let's scan the headlines of what's happening. Let's say, where is my newspaper? Where is the invitee? You know, where is
they must be focused more on their games. That who are we playing next?
They understand that. This is no pressure from what they get when they play a Champions League semi-final or a final or when they play a big team in their own leagues. Just imagine a Barcelona, Real Madrid 3 days before, 4 days before, where every newspaper is screaming at you, where every fan is screaming at you. The levels are different, though I don't believe that the levels are different. I think it's probably it's just an acceptance of the fact that we are on a big stage and we got to play at our best. You keep all that stuff out, but that's what they are suited to do. That's what they are trained to do. And I think whatever is happening in Qatar will blow itself out. When I say blow itself out, I mean with all due respect to whatever is happening, with all the controversies, it will blow itself out once the matches begin. And everybody gets into the stride, then the focus comes back. You got to win the next, you got to win the next, you got to draw, you may lose a big game. All of that happens. So I don't think it's really going to affect that much.
But you have been following the game for quite some years now. Can you recall of any World Cup in the past where there was as many controversies as there are in this World Cup?
Well, there's hardly a World Cup that goes without a controversy. When South Africa happened, the economy was crashing all over. We speak about sport washing and all of that, fancy words, also the right word in so many ways. But a coin always has two sides, It's just not Qatar that's having problems. When South Africa happened, there was an issue. There was an economy that was crashing. The whole World Cup took the attention away. When you went to Brazil, there was corruption scandals on a daily basis happening in Brazil. And there were stadium scandals happening, stadiums were not ready on time. There was so much happening out there in terms of even pollution. I think you will remember those pictures of plastic floating in rivers and all of that. So again the attention was diverted away.
But something on the lines of, human rights violation. A World Cup where you witnessed human rights violation.
No, I don't think so. You've seen the height at which this particular controversy is brewing, or it's kind of blowing up literally in your face. I don't think so. It's really, also understand, there are a lot of people who are criticizing it, but also understand from the point of Asia, I would rather put in a point where for the first time you have access to a World Cup. When I say access, imagine a World Cup in the US. And you want to go to the US to watch the World Cup. It's going to take you a year and a half to get a visa. Okay. I don't even know whether they're going to give you a visa or not, or give me or anybody else. I think there comes a time when you want to keep the controversy on the side and also see the good and the positive points. This World Cup is going to see the maximum people from Asia flying down to Doha to be able to watch a World Cup. That in itself is a big achievement. That in itself gives a huge amount of boost to football. In terms of fans also, because remember, fans are hugely important to, irrespective of the World Cup, fans are hugely important to any sport. So I think we are looking at the negative part so much, and this negative part is coming because Europe is raising it to an extent where, we are forgetting that we are basically batting for Europe all the way. We are not batting for our own country, we are not batting for Asia, that how much it might or will benefit Asia in that sense. So I think it's time to kind of look at it in slightly a more positive way and then go on with it.
As we were discussing, there were some violations of human rights in the 1978 World Cup back in Argentina. So what happened back then? If you could just brief us a little.
What happened back then was that there was no social media. You know, what happened back then, there was no Twitter. What happened back then, there was no Facebook. What happened back then was there was no Instagram. There was nothing of that sort. Not that you want to push what happened in 78 under the carpet, but 78 was probably on a much bigger scale than what is happening in Qatar, believe me. 30 to 40,000 people went missing, were killed, murdered. I mean, you had Videla as the Jorge Videla as the dictator at that point of time. And when we use this word sport washing, it happened at that point of time. There was a 300% or 200% inflation happening in Argentina in 1978. People were not getting to eat. While football was happening in the River Plate Stadium, which is one of the big ones, where actually the final was there, you had widows, sisters, brothers, children, parents, mother, father, of people who had disappeared. Nobody found them anywhere. Till now, none of them have been found. They were all outside the stadium. But inside the stadium, the football went on. You had all the big countries coming there. You had a Holland-Argentina final. So this is not something new. At that point of time, Videla wanted it because he wanted the attention diverted from whatever was happening in Argentina. The whole dictatorial process of ruling a country with force, football took it away. In a sense, football took the attention away, and you had a lot of people. In fact, even the New York Times actually wrote a lot of pieces about it. But at the same time, people also remember one of the great finals. Of course, there were a couple of journalists, and these reports are available everywhere, that they believed that Argentina bullied and refereed their way to the World Cup. But I don't think so. I think 60 to 70% of what Argentina performed in Buenos Aires at the River Plate on that particular night in the final was one of the great finals. It had some great players, it had a great coach.
Kempes scored a brace.
Mario Kempes, for me, somebody who, you know, as a child, I grew up in terms of reading him, watching his pictures. There was no television in our time. Okay, you guys live in a lucky period. You had Leopoldo Luque, one of those greats again. You had Ardiles, you know, again one of those really greats, and probably one of the greatest centre backs of all time. I mean, in terms of world football, in terms of Argentinian football, probably the greatest centre back of all time, Daniel Pasarela, who was the captain. And then you had this chain-smoking, romantist, philosophical guy called Cesar La Menotti, who I think probably, if Argentina actually rates their top coaches, he will be there at 1. I don't put Carlos Bilardo at 1. I put Carlos Bilardo at 2. But I put Menotti at 1 because he changed a lot of things.
But what kind of football did he play? Like, did he ask his players to play? Because Argentina were too defensive in their early days. But what kind of revolution did he bring to the team?
You know, Argentina played a very fluid kind of football. In 1958, actually didn't work. They lost to Czechoslovakia 6-1. And I think people wanted, or the fans, or even players inside the team like Delgado, who was a player in the 1958 team, they said it's time to change. Now, the time to change was not to increase the flow or increase the beautiful game to a much more higher plane. They decided that, you know, enough is the 6-1 defeats, we can't take it anymore. Let's bring it down to absolute defense. That is where they descended into. So from 58 onwards, the World Cups happened till 78. In 78, despite everybody saying that play defensive and win, Menotti went up and he said that no, this is not the way. And remember, it wasn't a rule, but Argentinian football only picked domestic players for World Cup teams. They never thought about players outside. Kempes was playing in Spain at that point of time, and he was 2 years consecutive top scorer with 27 and 28 goals in the season. He was brought back. Now, the only reason you bring back a player is because you believe in him. And Menotti had that whole format where he believed that unless the strikers are scoring the goals, it's not really going to happen. And just look at, he had 6 goals in the tournament, he won the Golden Boot, he had 2 goals in the final, and the score, I think, was at regulation time 1-1, and 1 minute to go before the final whistle, Rob Rensenbrink, one of those great Dutch forwards, he hits a shot that hits the post and comes off. I mean, it is one of those moments where I still remember a piece where it read that 70 people went through a cardiac when that ball came off the post.
So it was certainly exciting football.
It was. I mean, when you see Kempes play, there's nothing that you wouldn't say it's exciting. I mean, long mane, the kind of strides he had, the way he flowed, and he had this great ally in Leopoldo Luke. I mean, there are very, very few combinations in world football also where you have two players playing in tandem, one creating, one scoring, one creating, one scoring, and one on the left. Leopoldo Luke had a terrific right, Kempes had a terrific left. So you just look at that combination. We speak in cricket, you know, left and the right, but here in football you had one.
Like Scott Pippen and...
Yeah, that's a classic, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. So, but 8 years later, they repeated a similar feat. They won the World Cup yet again in 1986. But that time, the coach was different, the philosophy was different, the tactics were different. So, how was the 1986 World Cup like for the Argentine team? And how did they evolve from 1978 to 86 under two different managers?
I think 78, a World Cup winning coach, you can't just, you know, just tell him to leave. So he was part of the 82. Now 82 was where Maradona makes his debut.
Yeah.
He didn't make his debut because Menotti refused to have him in the team for 78. He said he's too young, he'll be hacked down and all of those. And
not
then he
too
won't
physical.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be too much for Maradona to take.
And he was right, certainly.
He was right, in the sense that Argentina won without a 17-year-old. But Argentina in 82, all what Menotti said came true, because he was sent off with a red card. He hacked somebody, or somebody hacked him and he kicked him back, and the referee sends him off. But 82, Menotti went and Bilardo comes in. But Bilardo was on the scene much before. Bilardo as a player was an attacking midfielder, a physician, a doctor, a gynecologist who then becomes a coach. You know, like he says in one of his pieces, he says that I traded the hospital for the football pitch. But it was great because in the end, if he was a doctor, he wouldn't have won the World Cup. But Bilardo was anti-football. Bilardo was the guy, he says, I don't care how you play. In the end, you got to win. And I think at that point of time, if you really look at the Argentinian side, Burruchaga, Valdano, Maradona, okay. The rest of them were kind of players who could hold the side together but couldn't score. But even with Burruchaga and Valdano, you had two good forwards. I wouldn't say great forwards. And they needed through balls. Now, who was the guy who's going to provide that through? It was only Diego. You've seen the England match. You've seen the highlights so many times. I think you've seen that goal that Maradona scores.
Yeah.
Just imagine a scenario where that goal is not scored. And I don't think anybody in the world at that point of time, or anybody probably in the Argentinian side, could have ever scored that kind of a goal.
Yeah.
But Bilardo believed in that. Bilardo believed that Maradona is the one who's going to deliver. So the anti-football thesis, or antithesis of football rather, the pragmatism versus the idealism which we call, pragmatism means Bilardo and idealism means the Menotti flow of football. That was completely destroyed in 86, yet they won. So Bilardo's philosophy worked. It also virtually worked in 1990 when they went to the finals. I mean, that was a terrible team.
But how were they tactically set up? More of a containing the opposition than hitting them on counter-attacks?
It was completely hitting them on counter-attacks. You look at the final, they led 2-0, of course, which was slightly surprising because they got a goal of a set piece. I think Brown scored in the final. They got a goal of the set piece there. But then Germany scored of 2 set pieces. And then it was 2-2. But that through ball is like one for the ages that I think Valdano scored or Burruchaga scored, I don't remember now. But it was one of those goals that is created. That is created in the training session. That's created when Bilardo sits with the team.
Yeah.
That this is the time when you hit. This is the time when it's a 2-2 draw, it's a 1-1 or it's a 2-1 to the opponent and you need an equalizer. That's what Diego gave. I think without Diego, there was no Bilardo. Without Bilardo, there was no Diego in that sense. So everything came together. For Carlos Bilardo, this was the culmination of the kind of philosophy he believed in. And at the end of the day, when the philosophy works, then you really can't be too critical of a philosophy. So Bilardo went home happy. Though, of course, as we were talking before this, he was not happy because he was terribly angry that 2 set pieces gave Germany 2 goals.
Even after winning the World Cup, he wasn't happy.
Yeah, just not happy with it.
Moving on to what we have today, we have Lionel Messi in the team, Di Maria in the team, De Paul in midfield, we have Otamendi and Martinez at the back.
But do you really believe that they can deliver? Do you think that Scaloni I'm not comparing him to Menotti.
Yeah.
Because the times were different. Football was different. Not even comparing him to Bilardo. But can Scaloni at this moment of time, where scrutiny on every player is so intense that when you go into the World Cup, the opposition exactly knows what you're going to play. Can Scaloni deliver?
It's going to be tough for him, but they come into this with 35 matches unbeaten streak, Messi in top class form in the league and as well as for the nation. And what he's doing is playing Messi at the top, because that's where, you know, he's clinical. He can also come back and, you know, deliver those breathtaking passes. But what he wants from Messi is goals. And even if he's not scoring, then creating chances in the final third. Then Argentina have Alvarez, Martinez and Di Maria who can score if Messi creates in the final third.
But do we believe Di Maria can still deliver? Do we believe he can still run at the same pace on the flank? And okay, I'll give you a scenario. I give you a scenario of a 0-0 first half. I give you a scenario of a 1-1, 10 minutes to go. And Messi is not getting the ball. He hasn't scored. The 1-1 is from other players. Where do you play Messi then? What will Scaloni do then? I mean, will he still keep Messi up, or will he bring him back as a withdrawn midfielder?
Messi has to come deep then. He has to create chances, because we witnessed in the Copa America final, a ball was created for Di Maria on the flanks. He ran there on the flanks, and what Di Maria has is he knows how to play in a system which switches from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3. He has learned that at Real Madrid. So he knows how to use the flanks. He is intelligent in that way. So he will know when to make those runs. He won't be as fast, but he will be intelligent to make the runs at the right time. Then if Messi can combine with, you know, Di Maria and Martinez by dropping deep, then Scaloni would certainly want that. And then they also have De Paul.
Yeah.
So De Paul has a very good, you know, relationship with Messi on the field and off it. So these two will, you know, allow the team to get out of the rut situation. 0-0 situation, 1-1 situation. They will play that interlink passes, and all of a sudden Messi will play that breathtaking pass which could be a deciding factor. So this is how things could unfold. But in all, they certainly will make a mark in this World Cup and certainly reach the finals. They could also play Brazil.
I think what probably also may happen is this kind of middle path philosophy that Menotti brought in, which is flow. Bilardo brought in, which is the anti-football defensive methods. And I think Scaloni might play something which is in the middle, because this team is probably a combination of both. Of the 78 and the 86 teams. You don't have somebody like a Kempes out there. You don't have somebody like a Maradona out there, unless you really try and compare Messi of today with Maradona of 86.
Yeah.
Now, these are very difficult comparisons, and they're pointless actually.
Yeah.
So I think if Scaloni can probably do a middle path, probably you just might see a very resurgent Argentina out there. Yeah.
A combination of both could certainly allow Argentina to win the World Cup this time around. They are one of the favorites, and they will be playing their first match in just a few days from now. And if you like this piece of information, then don't forget to like this. And if you want to know more such interesting stories regarding the world football, about different countries, coaches, players, then don't forget to tune in to Sports 9. Stay connected, stay tuned. This is Hardik Agrawal signing off.